The cuts to food rations came faster than anyone expected. On day 15, Captain Lee announced that meals would be reduced again. Each person would now receive barely enough to survive. Children would get slightly more than adults, but not by much. The announcement made people angry and scared, but there was nothing anyone could do. The math was simple and cruel. Less food meant they could last longer, maybe long enough for rescue. Taemin sat with his family during the evening meal. His portion fit in the palm of his hand. A protein bar, some dried fruit, and a cup of water. His stomach felt like an empty cave. Next to him, Hyunwoo picked at his food slowly, trying to make it last. Their mother watched them both with eyes that held too much worry. Daehyun came back from the ship every night covered in grease and exhaustion. He was working 18-hour days trying to repair the engines. Other engineers helped him, but progress was slow. They needed parts they did not have. They needed time they might not get. Every night he told his family the same thing with a tired smile. Tomorrow would be better. Tomorrow they would make more progress. Taemin wanted to believe him. The Viridians remained at their posts around the camp. They had not moved closer, but they had not left either. Their presence was constant, a reminder that the humans were not welcome here. Young-soo organized the security teams to watch them in shifts. He had been a soldier before joining the colony mission, and he did not trust the aliens. He wanted to build stronger defenses to prepare for an attack that might come any day. Jiwoo disagreed with him during meetings. She believed they needed to keep trying to talk, to find common ground. But her translation attempts had all failed. The Viridians would not engage. They would not negotiate. They simply stood and watched and waited. On day 17, something changed. Taemin was near the edge of camp, helping Kwan organize supply containers. The older boy had become quieter as the food situation worsened. He no longer joked or smiled. He just counted portions and tried to make impossible numbers work. A shimmer appeared in the air. Taemin blinked, thinking his hungry eyes were playing tricks. But the shimmer grew stronger, more visible. It looked like heat waves rising from hot ground, but it was cold outside. The shimmer formed a wall, transparent but definitely there. Kwan reached out to touch it. His hand stopped several inches from where the shimmer was. He could not push through. He tried harder, pressing with both hands, nothing. The shimmer held firm like invisible stone, others noticed. People came running. Young-soo pushed against the barrier with his shoulder. Jiwoo tried to walk through it. Scientists brought tools to measure and test it. Nothing worked. The barrier was solid, unbreakable, and it surrounded the entire camp. The Viridians had trapped them. Panic spread quickly. People shouted questions that no one could answer. Were they prisoners now? Would the aliens attack? What did this mean? Captain Lee tried to calm everyone down, but his own face showed fear. Chief Farrell stood on his usual hill watching. He did not move. He did not speak. He just watched as the humans discovered their new cage. Jiwoo grabbed the translation device and ran to the barrier edge. She shouted through it, her voice desperate. "Why are you doing this? We are not your enemies. Please talk to us." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then Chief Farrell began walking down the hill. He moved with slow dignity, his crystal body catching the double sunlight. Other Viridians parted to let him pass. He stopped at the barrier on the other side from Jiwoo. His voice came through deep and strange, like rocks sliding against each other. The translator worked harder this time, having learned more of the language. The words came clearer. "You cannot leave. You will not contaminate more sacred ground. You stay here until you die or until your people come for you." "We will die," Jiwoo said. "We have no food. Please, there must be another way." Chief Farrell's face was hard to read, but his body went very still. "Then you die? This is justice. Justice for what? We did not choose to crash here. It was an accident. You came. You invaded. Intention does not matter. The sacred ground is wounded. You must pay the price." Jiwoo tried to argue more, but Chief Farrell turned and walked away. He did not look back. The conversation was over. That night, the mood in camp was darker than ever. People whispered in frightened voices. Some cried. Some got angry. Young-soo wanted to find a way to break the barrier, to fight their way out. But his tests showed the energy wall was too strong. They could not break it with the tools they had. Taemin lay in his tent, unable to sleep. He could hear his parents talking in low voices on the other side of the thin fabric. His mother sounded like she was crying. His father's voice was trying to be comforting but failing. Even adults did not know what to do anymore. Minji found him the next morning. She looked thinner than before, her face more hollow. But her eyes still had that fierce spark that Taemin admired. "I've been watching them," she said quietly, sitting next to him. "The Viridians. Have you noticed they are getting weaker?" Taemin had noticed. The guards moved slower now. Some swayed on their feet. One had collapsed yesterday and been carried away by others. Jae-sung was right, Minji continued. They are starving too. Maybe even worse than us. Then why won't they work with us? Taemin asked. We could help each other. I don't know. Adults keep talking about honor culture and sacred laws. Stuff I don't really understand. That afternoon, Jae-sung gave a presentation to everyone in camp. He had been studying every interaction with the Viridians, analyzing their language and behavior. He had discovered something important and terrible. The Viridians had a sacred law about food sharing. In their culture, if you shared food with someone, you created an eternal bond. The person who received food became bound to serve the person who gave it, forever. It was the highest honor to give food, and the deepest shame to receive it. Their entire society was built on these bonds of food debt. That is why they will not accept help, Jae-sung explained. If we give them food, they believe they must serve us forever. Their pride will not allow it, and if they give us food, they expect us to serve them forever. They think we would try to escape that bond, which would be the worst dishonor imaginable. The humans stood in shocked silence. They had been trying to offer friendship, but the Viridians saw it as attempted slavery. Has no one ever just shared food as equals? Someone asked. Jae-sung shook his head. Not in their recorded history. Every species they have met has either tried to make them servants by offering food, or refused all contact to avoid the bond. They have been alone for thousands of years because of this law. Jiwoo looked devastated, so there is no way to reach them. No way to make them understand we do not think like that. I do not know, Jae-sung admitted. Their culture is very old, very rigid. Changing it might be impossible. More days passed. Day 20. Day 22. Day 25. The food ran lower. People grew weaker. Children cried more often. Adults stopped pretending things would be okay. Taemin started saving part of his daily ration. It was hard, so hard when his stomach screamed for food, but he tucked away half of his protein bar each day, hiding it in his pack. After 3 days, he had 1.5 full bars saved. After 5 days, he had 2.5. Minji caught him doing it. Are you crazy? You need to eat that. I know, Taemin said, but I have an idea. I am not sure if it will work, but I have to try. What idea? He looked toward the barrier, toward the hill where Chief Vral stood watch. The alien leader had not moved from that spot in days. He stood like a statue, getting thinner and weaker, but never resting, never leaving his post. I am going to give him my food, Taemin said quietly. Minji stared at him. Did you not hear what Jae-sung said? They will think you are trying to make them your servants. Maybe. Or maybe they will see that I am just a kid who does not want anyone to starve. That is really stupid, Minji said. But her voice was soft, not mean. It is also really brave. An old woman named Su Jin overheard them talking. She was small and wrinkled, with white hair and gentle hands. She had been a teacher on Earth before joining the colony. She sat down with them, moving slowly because hunger made everyone weak. You know, she said, when I was young in Korea, we had a tradition. When someone new moved into the neighborhood, we would bring them food. Rice cakes, soup, fruit. It was how we said welcome. It was how we made strangers into friends. Did it always work? Taemin asked. Usually. Not always. But we tried because trying was important. Because kindness matters more than rules sometimes. She looked at Taemin with knowing eyes. You are planning something. I can see it. Be careful, but also be brave. Sometimes children see solutions that adults miss because they are not carrying all the old rules in their heads. That night, Taemin held his saved rations and made his final decision. He would offer his food to Chief Vral. Maybe the alien would refuse. Maybe he would be angry. Maybe it would change nothing. But maybe, just maybe, it would change everything. Outside the tent, the Viridian guards glowed in the darkness. Above them, 2 moons rose into the purple sky, and somewhere in the space between 2 dying peoples, hope flickered like a small, stubborn flame. The ship fell from the sky like a dying star. Inside, alarm screamed and people held on to anything they could grab. Taemin pressed his face against the small window and watched the unknown planet rush up to meet them. His mother's arms wrapped tight around him and his little brother. His father was somewhere in the engine room trying to fix what could not be fixed. The impact threw everyone forward. Metal screamed. Lights went out. Then silence. When Taemin opened his eyes, smoke filled the air. People were crying and calling out names. He checked himself, then his mother and brother. They were alive. Bruised and scared, but alive. Around them, other families did the same thing. The colony ship New Dawn had carried 300 people toward a new home. Now they were somewhere else, somewhere wrong. The emergency doors opened with a hiss. Bright sunlight poured in, making everyone squint. Taemin followed his mother down the ramp, holding his brother's hand. The air outside smelled strange, like metal and flowers mixed together. The sky was purple, not blue. 2 suns hung overhead, one yellow and one orange. They were definitely not at their planned colony world. Captain Lee gathered everyone near the ship. His uniform was torn and his face was covered in soot. He spoke in a tired voice that tried to sound strong. The navigation system had failed. They had crashed on an uncharted planet. The communication array was damaged. No one knew they were here. Rescue could take months or years. The worst news came last. The food storage bay had ruptured in the crash. Most of their supplies were gone. What remained would last maybe 30 days if they were very careful. 30 days. Taemin saw his mother's face go pale. Around them, people started talking all at once, their voices rising in fear and anger. His father appeared from the ship, covered in grease and carrying tools. He found them in the crowd and pulled them all into a tight hug. He smelled like smoke and sweat, but Taemin had never been happier to see him. Daehyun told them he could fix the ship given time, but it would take weeks, maybe months. They needed to survive that long first. The colonists set up camp near the crashed ship. Tents appeared in rows. People organized into groups for different jobs. Taemin's mother, Hana, was put in charge of the food inventory because she was a botanist and understood nutrition. Young-soo, a former military man, organized security teams. Jiwoo, a woman with kind eyes and a tired smile, was their diplomat, though there was no one to talk to yet. On the second day, they found out they were not alone. Taemin was helping his mother count food packages when someone shouted. Everyone looked toward the hills. Figures stood on the ridges, tall and still, watching them. They were not human. The aliens stood at least 7 feet tall. Their skin looked like it was made of crystal or glass, reflecting the double sunlight in rainbow colors. They had 4 arms, 2 legs, and heads that seemed too large for their bodies. They wore simple clothes and carried staffs that might have been weapons or tools. Nobody moved. The humans stared at the aliens. The aliens stared back. Then more aliens appeared. Dozens of them, surrounding the crash site on all sides. They did not attack, but they did not leave either. They just watched. Captain Lee called a meeting with the leadership team. Taemin's mother had to attend, so she brought him and his brother along, telling them to sit quietly in the corner. The adults talked in serious voices. Jiwoo wanted to make contact. Young-soo wanted to build defenses. Daehyun said they should focus on repairing the ship. A scientist named Jae-sung said they should study the aliens before doing anything. They argued back and forth while Taemin watched through the tent opening. The aliens had not moved. They stood like statues made of light. The next morning, Jiwoo and 2 others walked toward the aliens with their hands up and empty. They carried a white flag. They wore translation devices that could learn languages. They moved slowly, showing they meant no harm. The aliens watched them come. One stepped forward, taller than the others. Crystals grew from his shoulders like armor. His face was hard to read, but his body language seemed cautious. This was Chief Vral, they would learn later. Jiwoo tried to communicate. She pointed to herself and said her name. She pointed to the ship and made gestures about crashing, about needing help. She smiled and bowed, trying every friendly gesture she knew. Chief Vral listened. His mouth moved, making sounds like wind chimes and grinding stones. The translation device struggled to understand. Finally, words came through, broken and unclear. You invade, sacred ground, dishonor, our ancestors, leave, or face judgment. Jiwoo tried to explain. They had not meant to crash here. It was an accident. They would leave as soon as they could repair their ship. Please, they needed just a little time. Chief Vral's response came clearer this time. Leave now. No food, no water, no help, go or die. The humans returned to camp with heavy hearts. They had made first contact and it had gone wrong. The aliens, who called themselves Viridians, wanted them gone immediately, but the ship could not fly, and they had nowhere to go. Days passed in tense silence. The Viridians did not attack, but they did not leave either. They formed a ring around the human camp, always watching. At night, their crystal bodies glowed softly, making them easy to see. They worked in shifts, always keeping at least 20 guards visible. Food rations were cut. Each person got smaller portions. Hunger became a constant companion. Taemin's stomach hurt most of the time. His little brother Hyunwoo cried at night, asking for more food. Their mother split her portions to give them extra, even though Taemin knew she was hungry too. A teenager named Kwan helped distribute the rations. He was 19 and had been training to be a chef on the new colony. Now he handed out protein bars and dried food with a sad expression. He apologized to everyone as if the shortage was his fault. Taemin made a friend during those difficult days. Minji was a girl his age with short hair and quick eyes. She was not afraid of anything, or at least she pretended not to be. They sat together during mealtimes, making their small portions last longer by eating very slowly. "Why do you think they hate us?" Minji asked one day, looking at the Viridian guards on the hill. "Maybe they're scared," Taemin said. "We did crash on their planet, but we didn't mean to." "Don't they understand accidents?" Taemin did not know. He watched Chief Pharrell standing like a statue in the distance. The alien leader never seemed to rest. He was always there, tall and glowing, watching over everything. On the 10th day, Jae-sung the scientist called another meeting. He had been studying the Viridians from a distance, watching their patterns and behaviors. He had learned something important. The Viridians were starving too. He had noticed how thin they looked, how slowly they moved. He had watched them during shift changes and seen the way they stumbled. The planet was experiencing some kind of crop failure. The Viridians did not have enough food for themselves. That was why they wanted the humans gone. They could not afford to share what little they had. This news settled over the camp like a cold blanket. Both species were starving on the same planet, separated by fear and misunderstanding. Jiwoo tried again to communicate. She offered to share information, to work together to find solutions, but every attempt was rejected. Chief Earl's message never changed. "Leave or die." "But we cannot leave," the humans said. "Then you will die," came the response. Taemin watched all of this from the edges. Adults talked about complicated things like honor cultures and diplomatic protocols. He did not understand most of it, but he understood hunger. He understood what it felt like to go to bed with an empty stomach, and when he looked at Chief Pharrell standing guard on the hill, he thought the alien chief probably understood those things too. At night, lying in his tent with his family, Taemin thought about Earth. He remembered his grandmother's kitchen, the smell of rice cooking, the way she always made too much food because she wanted everyone to be full and happy. She used to say that sharing food was how you showed love. He wondered if aliens understood love. He wondered if they understood kindness. Most of all, he wondered if there was a way to make them see that humans were not enemies. Outside, the Viridian guards glowed softly in the darkness. Inside, 300 humans tried to sleep while their stomachs growled. And somewhere in the middle, a 12-year-old boy began to form a plan that would change everything. The moment Chief Pharrell handed half the protein bar back to Taemin, something invisible broke. It was like a string that had been pulled tight for 10,000 years suddenly snapped. The sound that came from the Viridian guards was unlike anything the humans had heard before. Part gasp, part cry, part something that had no translation. Elder Then collapsed. His ancient body folded and 2 younger guards rushed to catch him before he hit the ground. His mouth moved, but no words came out. He was not dying, Taemin realized. He was simply too shocked to stand. Chief Pharrell stood frozen, holding his half of the protein bar. His 4 eyes were fixed on it like he had never seen food before. His hands shook so badly the bar nearly fell. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. "I have broken the sacred law. I have accepted food without creating a bond of servitude. I have shared as an equal. This has never happened. Never in all our recorded history. Maybe it should have happened a long time ago," Taemin said softly. More Viridians were gathering now, drawn by the strange sounds and the impossible sight of their chief sharing food with a human child. They stood in stunned silence, their crystal bodies reflecting the rising sun. Some swayed with weakness. Others held each other up. All of them stared. Chief Viral finally ate his half of the protein bar. He moved slowly, like he was performing a sacred ritual. When he swallowed, his whole body seemed to shudder. Whether from the food or from the weight of what he had done, Taemin could not tell. "The barrier," Chief Viral said suddenly. He raised one hand and made a gesture. The shimmer in the air faded and disappeared. The energy wall that had trapped the humans for days was simply gone. "You are no longer prisoners. We are no longer enemies. We are equals who share hunger and share food." Behind Taemin, people were waking up in the camp. He heard shouts of surprise and confusion. The barrier was down. The aliens were approaching. But the approach did not look hostile. It looked careful, uncertain, like someone taking the first steps after a long illness. Taemin's parents came running. Hana reached him first, pulling him into a hug so tight he could barely breathe. Daehyun wrapped his arms around both of them. They were crying and laughing at the same time. Relief and fear and pride all mixed together. "What did you do?" Hana whispered. "What just happened?" "We shared," Taemin said simply. And he shared back. Captain Lee arrived with Jiwoo and Youngsu and a dozen others. They stood uncertain, not sure if this was a trap or a miracle. Chief Viral stepped forward to meet them. He moved with more strength now, like the small amount of food had given him new energy. Or perhaps it was something else, something not physical that strengthened him. "Humans of Earth," Chief Viral said, his voice carrying across the space between the two groups. "This child has shown my people something we have forgotten or perhaps never knew. That food can be given without chains. That sharing can exist without servitude. That equals can help each other without shame." Elder Then had recovered enough to speak. He was still being supported by two younger Viridians, but his voice was strong. "What Chief Viral has done cannot be undone. The sacred law is broken. We must decide now what comes next. Do we cling to old ways and let both our peoples die? Or do we dare to try something new?" The Viridians talked among themselves in their chiming, grinding language. The humans watched, hardly daring to breathe. This was the moment that would decide everything. Finally, Chief Viral turned back to face the humans. "We have underground reserves. Food stores from before the crop failure. We have been saving them, rationing them, trying to survive alone as we always have. We were prepared to die rather than share and create bonds of servitude. But this child has shown us another way." He gestured, and several Viridians began moving toward passages in the hillside that the humans had not noticed before. They disappeared and returned carrying containers. Strange vessels made of crystal and metal, filled with things that looked like grain and preserved fruits and other foods the humans did not recognize. "We will share our food," Chief Viral continued. "And in return, you will share your knowledge. Your botanist Hana, she understands plants in ways we do not. Your engineer Daehyun, he works with machines differently than we do. We will learn from each other. As equals." Jiwoo stepped forward, tears streaming down her face. "We accept. We will share everything we know. We will help you fix your crop failure if we can." The next hours passed in a blur of activity. The Viridians brought out their food stores and shared them freely. It was strange food, nothing like what humans normally ate, but it was nutrition, and that was all that mattered. People ate slowly, carefully, their shrunken stomachs needing time to adjust. Hana worked with Viridian farmers, examining their soil and crops. She discovered that the failure was caused by a mineral imbalance in the ground. The Viridians had been farming the same fields for thousands of years without letting them rest. She explained crop rotation, composting, soil management, simple things that humans had learned long ago but the Viridians had never needed, because their ancient fields had always produced enough. Until now, Daehyun and other engineers examined Viridian technology. They found machines buried underground, old terraforming equipment that had not been used in generations. The Viridians had forgotten how to operate much of it. Working together, humans and aliens began bringing the old machines back to life. Jae-sung spent hours with Elder Then, recording history and culture. The old Viridian explained how his people had become isolated, how every interaction with other species had been transactional, based on dominance and submission, how they had been alone for so long that they had forgotten what partnership could look like. "We made ourselves prisoners of our own laws," Elder Then said sadly. "We turned food, which should unite all living things, into a weapon and a chain. It took a child from another world to show us what we had lost." Days turned into weeks. The Viridian crops began to recover under Hana's guidance. The human ship was repaired with help from Viridian technology. But something interesting happened. The humans stopped talking about leaving. Captain Lee called a vote. Should they stay on Viridian Prime and build a colony here, working with the Viridians? Or should they continue to their original destination once the ship was repaired? The vote was almost unanimous. They would stay. A new community began to form. Human tents stood alongside Viridian crystal dwellings. Human children played with young Viridians, learning each other's games and languages. Minji became friends with a young Viridian named Kus who taught her how to make music from crystal chimes. Hyunwoo, recovered and healthy now, collected stories from Elder Then and shared stories from Earth in return. Taemin found himself in an unexpected position. Both humans and Viridians treated him with special respect. Chief Virl called him Bridge Bearer, a title that had never existed before but somehow fit perfectly. He was the one who had bridged the gap between two peoples, but Taemin did not feel like a hero. He just felt like himself, like a kid who had been hungry and seen someone else who was hungry and decided to share. It seemed so simple to him. Why had it taken so long for anyone to try? Months passed. The joint community grew stronger. They built new structures together, combining human and Viridian building techniques. They planted new fields using both species' knowledge. They created a school where both human and Viridian young learned together. Sujin became one of the teachers. She was old and slow, but the children loved her stories. She taught them about Earth and Korea and the old traditions of sharing and kindness. She always made sure to tell them about the day a 12-year-old boy offered bread to an alien chief and changed two worlds forever. One evening, Taemin stood with Chief Vril on the hill where they had first shared food. The two suns were setting, painting the purple sky with colors that still amazed him even after months of seeing it. Below them, the community was settling in for the night. Lights came on in human homes and Viridian dwellings alike. "I have been thinking," Chief Vril said, "about what you said that morning, about changing bad laws, about kindness mattering more than old rules. And," Taemin asked, "I think your grandmother was wise. I wish I could have met her." "Me too. She would have liked you. She would have made you too much food and insisted you eat it all." Chief Vril made a sound that the translator told Taemin was laughter. "I would have been honored to sit at her table." They stood in comfortable silence watching the stars come out. New ships would come eventually. Earth would learn about this colony and the partnership with the Viridians. Other species would hear about the planet where an ancient law was broken by an act of simple kindness, but that was all in the future. For now there was just this moment. A human boy and an alien chief standing together, no longer strangers or enemies, but friends who had learned that sharing food could mean sharing hope, sharing trust, sharing a future. "Thank you," Chief Vril said quietly, "for seeing me not as an enemy or a master or a servant, just as someone who was hungry." "Thank you," Taemin replied, "for sharing instead of taking, for choosing equality over pride." Below them, Hana called out that dinner was ready, a mix of human and Viridian foods prepared together, to be shared together. Taemin waved to show he heard. Day 28 arrived with gray clouds covering both suns. The air felt heavy and cold. Inside the camp, people moved like ghosts, saving energy because food could no longer provide much. The rations had been cut again. Now each person received barely enough to keep their heart beating. Children got a little extra, but not much. Taemin's saved food sat hidden in his pack. He had 4 protein bars now, wrapped carefully in cloth. 4 bars that represented 8 days of hunger. 8 days of watching his little brother cry for more food. 8 days of his mother's worried face. 8 days of feeling his stomach twist and hurt, but he had not changed his mind. Hyunwoo was getting weaker. The 8-year-old could barely walk anymore. He stayed in the tent most of the day, sleeping to escape the hunger. Their mother stayed with him, singing soft songs and telling stories to distract him from the pain in his belly. Their father still worked on the ship, but his hands shook now. His tools slipped. Progress had almost stopped. Across the camp, it was the same. People were giving up. Some talked about surrender, about begging the Viridians to make them servants if it meant getting food. Others talked about trying to break through the barrier one last time, even though they knew it was impossible. Desperate people made desperate plans. Young-soo called a meeting. His voice was weak but angry. "We have 2 days of food left. Maybe 3 if we stretch it. Then we start dying. We need to make a decision now." "What decision?" someone asked. "We are trapped. We cannot fight. We cannot run. We can show them we will not go quietly. We can make them remember that humans do not surrender without trying everything. Jiwoo stood up, her legs shaking. Violence will not help us. It will only make them certain that we are dangerous. We are already dying. What difference does it make what they think? The argument went in circles. No one had answers. Everyone was too tired and hungry to think clearly. Finally, Captain Lee ended the meeting. He told everyone to rest, to stay with their families, to hold on to hope even though hope seemed foolish now. Timon walked through the camp afterward. He saw Quan sitting alone, staring at the empty supply containers. The teenager's face was hollow, his eyes empty. He had been in charge of feeding people, and now there was nothing left to give. The guilt was eating him from the inside. Minji found Timon near the barrier. She sat down next to him without speaking. They both looked out at the Viridian guards. The aliens were in bad shape too. Several had collapsed over the past few days. The ones still standing swayed like trees in wind. Their crystal skin had lost its bright shine. They looked gray and dull. "When are you going to do it?" Minji asked quietly. "Tomorrow morning," Timon said. "Early when most people are still sleeping. Your parents will be so angry. I know. They will try to stop you if they find out. That is why I am not telling them." Minji was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I think you are either very brave or very stupid." "Maybe both." "Maybe," Timon agreed. He touched his pack, feeling the shape of the protein bars inside. "But I keep thinking about my grandmother. She died before we left Earth. She used to say that food is love, that sharing a meal is the most human thing we can do. The Viridians do not think like that. I know, but maybe that is the problem. Maybe they need to see that not everyone thinks like them, that some people share food just because it is the right thing to do." That evening, Soo-jin came to sit with Taemin's family. The old woman moved very slowly now, each step an effort. But her mind was still sharp, her eyes still kind. She had brought stories to tell Hyunwoo, stories about Korea and Earth in the old days. She told them about a winter long ago when she was a girl. Her family had been very poor. They did not have much food. But their neighbor had even less, an old man who lived alone. Her mother had taken half their rice and given it to the old man, even though it meant her own children would be hungry. "I was angry," Soo-jin said. "I did not understand why my mother would give away our food when we needed it too. But my mother said something I never forgot. She said that being human means caring for others even when it costs you something, especially when it costs you something." Hyunwoo listened with wide eyes. "Did the old man survive?" "Yes, and when spring came and times were better, he shared his garden vegetables with us. But that was not why my mother helped him. She helped because it was right, not because she expected anything back." Taemin met Soo-jin's eyes. The old woman smiled at him, a small smile that said she knew what he was planning. She did not try to stop him. She just nodded, giving him permission he had not asked for but needed anyway. His parents discovered his hidden food that night. Hana was checking his pack for something and found the protein bars wrapped in cloth. She pulled them out with shaking hands, staring at them like they were treasure. Which they were, in a way. They represented survival. "Taemin," she said, her voice strange. "Why do you have these? You should have eaten them. You need food." Dae-hyun looked up from where he was trying to rest. He saw the bars and his face went through several emotions at once. Confusion, anger, understanding, fear. "No," Dae-hyun said, standing up quickly. "No, you are not doing what I think you are doing." "I have to," Taemin said quietly. "You do not have to do anything. You are 12 years old. This is not your responsibility." "Then whose responsibility is it? The adults have tried everything. Nothing has worked. Maybe it is time to try something different." Hana sat down hard, still holding the protein bars. Tears ran down her face. "Taemin, if you give them this food, they will think you are trying to enslave them." Jae-sung explained it. "Their culture will not understand. They might hurt you. They might hurt all of us. Or they might understand that a hungry kid is just trying to help another hungry person. That is not how they think. Maybe they have never had the chance to think differently." The argument continued for an hour. His parents used every reason they could think of. It was too dangerous. It would not work. He was too young. He needed the food himself. The Viridians would not care. "Please, please do not do this." But Taemin had made his choice. He had been making it slowly, piece by piece, for days. Every time he saved part of his ration. Every time he watched Chief Voral standing guard, never resting. Every time he remembered his grandmother's words about food and love and caring for others. Finally, his father sat down and put his head in his hands. His mother held Hyunwoo close, crying quietly. They knew they could not stop him. They could lock him in the tent, but he would just try again later. They could take the food, but he would find another way. When a child decides to be brave, parents can only watch and hope. If you are going to do this, Daehyun said finally, his voice rough, then do it right. Go early when Chief Pharrell is alone. Speak clearly, show respect, and if anything goes wrong, run back here as fast as you can. Taemin nodded. His mother pulled him into a tight hug, holding him like she might never let go. You are so much like your grandmother, she whispered. Stubborn and kind and too brave for your own good. Sleep did not come easily that night. Taemin lay awake, listening to his brother's soft breathing, his mother's quiet crying, his father's restless movements. Outside, the camp was silent except for the wind. Beyond the barrier, the Viridian guards glowed faintly in the darkness. When the first light appeared on the horizon, Taemin got up. He moved quietly, carefully. He took his pack with the protein bars inside. He put on his jacket. He looked at his sleeping family one more time, memorizing their faces. Then he slipped out of the tent and began walking toward the barrier, toward Chief Pharrell, toward a choice that would change everything or change nothing. His hands shook. His heart pounded. His empty stomach twisted with fear and hunger, but his feet kept moving forward step by step, carrying him toward the moment when a 12-year-old boy would offer bread to an alien chief and discover what kindness could do in a universe built on ancient rules and rigid pride. The two suns began to rise, painting the purple sky with orange and yellow light. A new day was starting, and with it everything was about to change. The camp was still asleep when Taemin reached the barrier. His breath made small clouds in the cold morning air. The two suns were just beginning to peek over the horizon, turning the sky from purple to pink. His pack felt heavy on his shoulders, even though it only carried 4 protein bars. Those bars felt like they weighed as much as the whole world. Chief Pharrell stood on the hill where he always stood. The alien leader had not moved from that spot in so many days that Taemin wondered if he ever slept. The crystal skin that had once shone like rainbows now looked gray and cracked. Chief Pharrell swayed slightly like a tall tree in wind. He was dying slowly, just like everyone else. Taemin took a deep breath. His hands were shaking so much he had to grip his pack straps to steady them. Fear made his legs feel weak, but he thought about his grandmother, about Sujin's story, about all the people in the camp who were giving up hope. He thought about Hyunwoo's tired face and his mother's tears. He walked forward until he stood right at the barrier. The invisible wall hummed softly. He could feel it against his skin, like standing too close to something electric. Chief Vral, he called out. His voice came out smaller than he wanted, squeaky with fear. He tried again, louder. Chief Vral, please. I need to talk to you. The alien did not move at first. Then slowly his head turned. 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern on his face focused on Taemin. Those eyes were large and dark, reflecting the morning light. They showed nothing. No anger, no curiosity, just emptiness. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then Chief Varel began walking down the hill. Each step was careful, measured. He moved like someone who was very tired but refused to show it. Other Viridian guards noticed and turned to watch. A ripple of attention spread through them. Chief Varel stopped on the other side of the barrier, standing directly across from Taemin. Up close, he was enormous. Even weak and starving, he towered over the human boy. His forearms hung at his sides. His crystal skin had cracks running through it like broken glass. But he held himself with dignity, with pride that would not bend even as his body failed. Human child, Chief Vral said. The translation device on Taemin's belt struggled with the words, making them sound choppy and strange. Why do you come here? Why do you disturb the watching? I came to give you something, Taemin said. His voice still shook, but he forced himself to keep talking. I know we have made mistakes. I know we crashed on your sacred ground. I know you do not want us here. But I cannot watch you die when I have food I can share. He reached into his pack and pulled out the 4 protein bars. They were wrapped in cloth to protect them. He unwrapped them carefully, holding them out with both hands toward the barrier. Chief Varal stared at the food. His body went completely still. Behind him, the other Viridian guards made sounds like wind chimes clashing together. They were shocked, Taemin realized. They had not expected this. You offer food, Chief Viral said slowly. You know what this means in our culture. Jae-sung, your scientist, he has learned our ways. He has told your people. You know that if I take your food, I must serve you forever. My people must serve your people. Is this what you want, to make slaves of us? No, Taemin said quickly. No, that is not what I want at all. I just want to help. I see that you are hungry. I am hungry too. Everyone is hungry. But being hungry together does not mean we have to be enemies. It means we should help each other. Help? Chief Viral repeated like the word was foreign and strange. You speak of help as if it is simple. As if there is no cost, no bond, no eternal debt. Where I come from, help is simple sometimes. My grandmother used to say that when you see someone who needs food and you have food to give, you give it. Not because you want something back, just because it is the right thing to do. Chief Viral's 4 eyes studied him. One of his hands reached toward the barrier but stopped before touching it. Your grandmother, he said. She is your elder? Your leader? She was. She died before we left Earth, but she taught me things that I remember. What did she teach you about food? Taemin thought about all the meals in his grandmother's kitchen. The smell of rice and soup. The way she always made too much and insisted everyone eat until they were full. The joy on her face when people enjoyed her cooking. She taught me that food is love, Taemin said. That sharing a meal is how you turn strangers into family. That being hungry is terrible, but being hungry and alone is worse. Something changed in Chief Viral's posture. His head tilted slightly, a gesture that might have been confusion or interest. Love, he said. This word translates poorly. Our people do not have the same concept. We have duty, honor, obligation. But love as you describe it, we do not understand. Maybe that is the problem, Taemin said quietly. Maybe that is why you have been alone for so long. The words hung in the air between them. Behind Chief Viral, an old Viridian moved forward. This one was even more ancient-looking. His crystal skin covered in so many cracks that he seemed held together by will alone. He moved with great difficulty, leaning on a staff. I am Elder Then, the old alien said. His voice was like stones grinding. I have lived 800 of your years. I have seen 17 species come to our world. All wanted to bind us or refused all contact. You are the first child any species has sent to speak with us. Tell me, young human, do your leaders know you are here? My parents know, Taemin said. They tried to stop me, but I came anyway. Why would you disobey your elders for this? Because sometimes adults make things too complicated. They think about politics and culture and all these big ideas, but this is not complicated. You are hungry. I have food. I want to share. That is all. Elder Then made a sound that might have been laughter or crying. The translation device could not tell which. Child logic, he said. Pure and simple. But our laws are not simple. If Chief Viral accepts your food, our entire people becomes bound to serve yours. For eternity. This is the sacred law. It cannot be broken. Then change the law, Taemin said. The words came out before he could stop them. He expected anger, expected the aliens to be offended. But instead, both Chief Viral and Elder Then went very, very still. Change the law, Chief Viral repeated slowly. Change a law that has existed for 10,000 years. Change the foundation of our society. This is what you suggest? I suggest that a law that makes you starve rather than accept help is a bad law, Taemin said. His fear was fading, replaced by something else. Determination, maybe, or frustration that something so simple had become so impossible. I suggest that pride is not worth dying for. I suggest that maybe, just maybe, my people and your people could share this food as equals. No masters. No servants. Just two groups of people trying to survive. Chief Viral looked at the protein bars in Taemin's hands. His forearms trembled. Taemin could see the hunger in those dark eyes, the desperate need for food. But he could also see the weight of 10,000 years of tradition, holding the alien chief in place. Please, Taemin said softly, you can have my loaf. Not because I want to own you. Not because I want anything from you. Just because you are hungry and I cannot watch you die. Please. The words echoed across the space between them. The other Viridian guards had all stopped their watching. They were focused on this moment, on their chief and the human child, and the 4 protein bars held out with shaking hands. Chief Viral reached toward the barrier. His hand passed through it like smoke. Taemin had not known the barrier worked differently for the Viridians, that they could pass through while humans could not. Chief Viral's hand, large and crystal and trembling, reached toward the food, then stopped. "If I take this," Chief Viral said, "everything changes. For my people, for yours, for the sacred law. Are you certain this is what you want?" "I am certain," Taman said. "I am certain that kindness matters more than old rules. I am certain that my grandmother would tell me to share. I am certain that we are better together than apart." Chief Viral's hand moved forward and touched the protein bars. His fingers were cold and hard like stone. They closed around the food carefully, gently. He lifted the bars from Taman's hands. Then slowly, deliberately, Chief Viral broke one bar in half. He held one piece in his hand and offered the other piece back to Taman. "We share," Chief Viral said. His voice was quiet but clear. "As equals. No masters. No servants. This has never been done before. This breaks the sacred law. But perhaps the sacred law was wrong." Behind him, Elder Then made a sound like breaking glass. Other guards gasped and swayed. The moment stretched out, huge and impossible and real. Taman took the offered half of the protein bar. His hand met Chief Viral's hand. "Human and alien, child and chief. Two hungry beings choosing kindness over pride. We share," Taman agreed. And the world changed.